It is like an initial purging of everything you don't need, and then it's a continual routine. Hi everyone, and welcome back, where we talk about motherhood, natural living, and homemaking, which includes renovating our 1940s house. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my tips on how to keep a space decluttered. Now, I feel like I'm super hypocritical right now for sharing all this because we've been a little bit busy lately, so everything is a mess, but these are things I use in general for a life that's kind of full of busyness normally, for how to keep down the clutter in your home. So tip number one is have few things. And I've talked about this before when it comes to having time in your home. It's because the less things you have, the less things you have to pick up. And obviously that can go when it comes to keeping things decluttered. So for example, and I used this example in my last video, if you have few toys for your children in the downstairs area, then when it comes time to pick them up, it's going to take minimal time and effort to pick all those up and put them back where they belong. Like I've said before, we have about 4 baskets of toys, which sounds like a lot, but 2 of them are only this big, and just pick up all the toys, we put them in there, and then they're done. And I don't super worry if one toy gets in the wrong basket because there's only 4 of them and it's not that big of a deal. And then with having fewer things, you feel less overwhelmed the times when it is all out of order. So for example, right now, everything's a mess. Like I said, there's a baby carrier on the floor right there. One of the baskets of toys is out and dumped on the floor. The changing stuff is out and about because I've been changing diapers all day. And there's just some miscellaneous package bubble wrap stuff because of packages I opened yesterday right before we headed out the door. So it feels a little bit overwhelming, but it's not as overwhelming as it used to be when all of her toys were out, because there's so much less of them now that even though everything's a mess, 1, I know it's not going to take that long to pick up, and then 2, it's not as stressful as it would be if there was so much all around me. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is don't stress about where everything goes. I like baskets because you just put everything in a basket and you just are done with it. I know people, and my mother-in-law tells me that this was something that she struggled with, who just like to micromanage where things go. And so like you have your extremes where you're sorting Legos by color, and that just takes so much time and so much mental energy. I don't care. Like I said, I have the 4 baskets. I have 1 for board books, 1 for Duplos, 1 for instruments, and 1 for blocks. If the blocks get in with the instruments, if a Duplo gets in the board book, or what actually most often happens is a board book gets in with a Duplo basket, I don't stress about it. If I see it and I'm able to, I'll put it back where it belongs, but I don't micromanage that. I don't lose sleep over the fact that there might be a block in the Duplo box, because at the end of the day, it's off the floor, and that's really all that matters. If you just apply that to kind of like everything, I have 2 baskets that are for diapers, and honestly, one is supposed to be the folded diapers and the other is supposed to be covers. It gets mixed up all the time, but it's out of the way, so I really don't stress about it. If I'm the one putting it up, then I'll put it up correctly. But the nice thing about that is I can just say, hey guys, let's clean up. Let's put the diapers in the basket, and if it gets messed up, it really doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. It's not like I have a drawer here and a drawer there and another thing in another room. It's just I have baskets that are dedicated to something, and I just say, hey, can you please put these away? My husband can do that. My daughter, who's 16 months old, can do that. So it just makes things much easier on yourself if you can just not be super anal about where things go and just kind of have a general place where things go and have it there. Actually, I do have 5 baskets because I have 1 basket that is literally just miscellaneous toys, and everything else goes in that. Blankets, the play gym, the stuffed animals, her dolls, all of that. Like I have a soft board book that goes in there. If it's on the floor and the rest of the baskets are full, it goes in that. And it's a huge, giant cotton rope basket. And it just sits in the office. And when I'm feeling super stressed, the nice thing is I pick up everything and I can put it in there and I don't have to worry about it. So like I said, don't be super anal about everything, because it can just get so on top of you so quickly. And if you're a mom of little kids, you don't have time for that. The other thing that helps with decluttering is not keeping things, which I know sounds cliche because it's like, oh, we declutter all the time. We kind of do. We throw away a lot and we donate a lot. I am constantly going through my wardrobe pretty much all the time. If I quickly find out that there's something I don't wear, I get rid of it. I try to resell it, or if it was a super low dollar item, I'll just redonate it. I have been trying anyway to minimize my wardrobe. Anyway, so if I just know that something doesn't flatter me, or my husband doesn't really like something, or I don't get compliments on something, or just I know it doesn't look right on me, then I'll just get rid of it, because why am I gonna have something that I don't like, that I don't feel comfortable in, and that doesn't even look great on me? So I just get rid of it. Like, I don't even feel bad about it anymore, especially because I've been selling things. That's a whole nother thing. I don't recommend doing that if you're trying to declutter, because that can cause more clutter later. But don't stress about it. Just get rid of it, because you are going to have so much trial and error with clothes anyway, and I feel like you actually have a worse time if you get a piece and you don't like it and you try to make it work anyway. Because what I found is with me just being like, hey, that doesn't work, I bought it yesterday, I'm just going to get rid of it. And that sounds like such an entitled thing to do. For me, like I said, I'm selling them, but I feel like I've become so much more comfortable in my style, and now I actually know the things that do fit for me. So like, I was looking at this shirt, which is technically a dress, it's just too short, and another shirt, and I was like, which one do I want? And because I've been so good about knowing, okay, this looks good, this doesn't, I knew that the fabric of the other one wouldn't lay on me as good as this one did, and I was correct, and so I didn't get it. And I knew that this one would look good, even though it was a dress and oversized and too short for me, because I knew how things fit on my body and I knew my size. I just feel like, whereas if you keep things that you don't use, you actually don't have as good of an idea of what it is you do use, because you're trying to use this thing that you have that you don't actually need. And so then you create this false expectation that makes you think that you do need this thing, when in reality you don't. So if you don't need it, get rid of it. If it doesn't work for you, just throw it away, donate it. Honestly, like, donations are great. If you're worried about throwing things away, just donate it. Like, especially if you live in a rural area, that somebody can use that. Somebody will use that, because you don't get very many good things that are donated. So that will really help cut down on your clutter, because you'll, one, be forced to use the things that you do have, which means you're putting eyes and you're laying hands on them more often, which I feel like in turn helps you continuously put them up and keep them. Whereas if you're trying to incorporate things that you don't need all the time, you're going to be pulling them out and then not really wanting to put them back, if you know what I mean. The other thing too, and this is more of a mindset thing, but it's not always going to be decluttered. So like, a lot of declutter, because I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about minimalism and decluttering, just because I'm not naturally that way, but I want to be better about it. And something I've noticed is there's like two schools of thought. One is, it's like, this is a continual process that you'll pretty much always have to incorporate into your life. Decluttering is a routine. It's not necessarily a one-time thing. And then obviously you have the converse of that, which people think is a one-time thing. I think it's a little bit of both. I think if you are a maximalist, which I tend to be, it is like an initial purging of everything you don't need, and then it's a continual routine. So it's like a little bit of both. I think the reason you have the two opinions about it is because it's based on personality type. So what I suggest is maybe just spending a day and just purging one of your rooms and cleaning out the things you don't need. I do that a lot in my office because I have sewing stuff, knitting stuff, and then stuff to sell and craft stuff, which is like 4 major mess making things. And so what I'll do is, I recently went through my knitting drawer, like recently since my son's been born, so like with the past few months, and I got rid of all the yarn I knew I wasn't going to use, which was like acrylic and polyester and anything synthetic, because I don't reach for it anymore. So that was something I did. I just got rid of a bunch of stuff. And then with like my sewing stuff, I got rid of fabric that was blended, or fabric scraps, because I was keeping like scraps like this big, and I knew I was never going to use them. I had the idea that I was going to make a quilt, and I don't know how to do that. And if I made a quilt, I'm sure I'd want it to be a pattern, so I wouldn't just keep random scraps. So I got rid of that sort of stuff. And then like my craft stuff, I've been going through that slowly as I've been pulling it out, because I know some of the things I kept were things I can always use. The nice thing about craft stuff is you can almost use all of it, but just things that it was going to be too much work to use. So maybe it was a little piece of paper that's like angled or ripped somewhere, and it's like only like that big, and I could use it in theory, especially on a letter, but I'm not going to, because it's just something to store. So going through the various parts of your home and kind of purging them, I think is really good, because it helps you get a general idea of, this is a good amount of inventory to have for this thing, and then just recycling through every few months or weeks, depending on how often you visit that space, and being like, okay, now that I've collected a few more things in my sewing department, you know, do I really need this thread anymore? Do I really need this fabric anymore? Did I really need to finish this project? You know, those sorts of things. So you have your initial purge of like, let's get rid of all the stuff that I know I will never use, and then your routine, just going through it and making sure you aren't keeping any unnecessaries. The other thing that has really helped me with keeping down the clutter is attacking things, and that sounds kind of dramatic, but like, what is out? So, for example, if I go to check the mail and there's a piece of mail that I need to address, I'll set it on the mantle. Well, then it will sit there for a couple of days. So then what I do is attack that piece of mail. Why is this piece of mail here? What needs done with it? And where does it need to go afterwards? So, for example, bills. Okay, there's a piece of mail. I need to get that, and I need to pay the bill. So, pick up that mail, open it, know that that's a bill. Okay, pay that bill, throw it away. So, what needs to happen? Attacking the little messes that just come up. Because, like, for me, any surface, like desk, dresser, table, mantle, sometimes even a chair, those all get filled. Like, if it's a surface, I will use it. So I have to like constantly be like, okay, what is this? What does it function? What needs to happen to it for it to move from this surface? And sometimes it's as simple as I meant to take it upstairs and I forgot to, so it got left down there, so maybe I just need to take it upstairs. So that too, because what is out is going to create more and more clutter, because say your floors are clean, but your tables are stacked up with all these things, well, that's still going to feel cluttered. Then the other thing is throw things away as they are done. So this is something that I've gotten a lot better at doing. Here's an example. You have a pen and you're writing with a pen and all of a sudden it stops working. What's the first thing you do? You do like the little swirls on the paper and then you go and find a new pen, right? Okay, well, throw that pen away because it doesn't work. So if the ink is no longer coming out of it, that means the ink is gone, which means that pen needs thrown away, which makes total logical sense, and maybe like normal people do that, but I didn't. So I was like, oh, maybe I should just throw this away. So I actually heard that on the podcast. Oh, let me think of the name of it. Something about being a slob. I'll put the name of the podcast right here. I can't think of it right now. I know it has something to do with the name slob. But anyway, it's a really good podcast. Honestly, if you're a maximalist, please listen to that podcast because that helped me so good. And she's like super down to earth, amazing. I should just say that the whole video is watch that podcast or listen to these podcasts and you'll be fine. So just throw things away as you use them. So like right now, there is nothing that I can see that needs thrown away right now. There are things that are out that for other people might look like trash. Like I said, the bubble wrap and envelopes from the packages I just got, but I save those because I reuse them to put things in that I'm sending to people. So like everything else is things that need to be going away. There's no trash. There's not a leftover chocolate wrapper or leftover cheese wrappers or anything like that. There's just things that I'm going to use. So if there's trash, when you find trash, when you use it and when you get trash, so like, or something might not be trash until you use it and now it's trash. So like, you know, the wrapper on something, not trash until you open it and eat it and now that's trash. So throw it away during that time. So doing things like that and establishing those sorts of habits will really help you keep down the clutter, because we have stuff that we keep that we just move around essentially. That's all cleaning really is. It's moving one thing from a place that it doesn't belong into the place it does belong. But when it comes to trash, that needs to be gone out of your house. So if that can just be an established routine that when we have trash, we throw it away, then that will 100% help. And then the last tip, which is super helpful for me, and it is a personality thing, so it might not be super helpful for you, which is having storage out. So it really helps me to have baskets right here where I can put stuff away, right there where I can put stuff away, and not like shoved in a closet or a wardrobe. Because for me, it's just an extra step when I'm putting things away to have to open a drawer and put it in there and all that sort of thing. For me, it helps if I have stuff stored out, and then I can clean and do everything within a minimal time. So I hope that was really helpful for you today. Thank you all so much for watching to the end of this video. And if you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe, and you all have blessed days. Bye.